Truth, Money, and Freedom podcast.
Welcome back to another edition of Truth, Money, and Freedom. Gang, I'm going to let you know I had a conversation with Ron Calzone, pictured here, and that is the video that's coming up shortly after this introduction. Just want to let you know I did hear from the Senator's office this morning. SB588 is not going to be voted on out of committee this Thursday, so it'll be at a date to be announced. It's just slightly postponed. There's reasons for it, but it's okay. It'll probably be next week or the week after. So the important information in this video still stands. You guys, there will be specific information Ron conveys to you in this video. Please share it, especially to those you know in Missouri. This is about witness forms and about phone calls and about spreading Ron's video explaining SB 588. Once again, we're still in the fight, gang. We're still fighting for this bill. The House phone calls are still incredibly necessary. But at any rate, without further introduction, I'm going to go ahead and start this video now.
Welcome to Truth, Money, and Freedom. Today is Sunday, January 26th, 2020. And I'm talking with my good friend here, Ron Calzone, who I've spoken of quite a bit in the past few podcasts. Ron, would you mind saying hello to the Truth, Money, and Freedom subscribers and let us know a little bit about what you do?
Well, good evening, Patrick, and everyone that's watching. What do I do? It depends on. I wear a lot of hats. I'm like you. I'm just an average guy. I'm a rancher. I raise cattle and quarter horses. I've got a steel fabricating business that I own. Because I own my own business, it affords me a lot of discretionary time. So I live about an hour south of Jefferson City, and it's a relatively easy drive to get up there. So since I make my own schedule, I can spend a lot of time at the state capitol watching out for your rights and trying to preserve the rights of my children and my grandchildren, making sure that they don't pass bad laws and trying to promote good laws for them to pass. And I have a particular interest in promoting constitutional governance and protecting people's individual liberty. And we focus on those kind of things. I believe in free market principles. And I see a lot of corruption, things I call mercantilism, or some people call it corporatism or crony capitalism, and those are some of the kind of things I fight. And also fight for state sovereignty. And there's probably no greater affront to our sovereignty than the threat of federal gun control laws. And of course, we've had a bump stock ban that came from a Republican president, and frankly, I think quite an illegal fashion. And it sets the stage for a lot more executive orders that infringe on our right to keep and bear arms. But we also have the threat of a bunch of Democrat candidates for president right now that would like to ban every gun that they could. And particularly, again, of course, they've got their sights on, no pun intended, on quote unquote assault rifles. And there's a very good chance that we're going to see even more. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, with these threats coming from all these different directions, you kind of see state sovereignty as one of the best tools that we have working in that direction?
Well, that's right. And so when the federal government passes a law or a president signs an executive order that infringes on your gun rights, it's a direct affront to the Second Amendment, which was originally designed not to protect you from your state's government, but designed to protect you from Congress and from the federal government threats. I believe that every single federal gun control law that's ever been passed is unconstitutional. Every one of those is an infringement. And they should not be considered to be the law of the land in the individual states. We are the United States, not the United State. And that means that I believe that a public official that's taken an oath to defend the Constitution of their state and the Constitution of the United States has an obligation to try to thwart the federal enforcement of gun control in their states. The Second Amendment Preservation Act is designed to prevent the enforcement of federal gun control laws in the state of Missouri in the clearly constitutional way and that is at least one of the clearly constitutional ways, and that's something that's called anti-commandeering. The U.S. Supreme Court has said that states do not have to participate in the enforcement of unconstitutional gun control laws, and that means that they can withhold their resources. And the Second Amendment Preservation Act is about actually making it illegal for state resources, including local resources in Missouri, from being used to aid or assist in any way the enforcement of federal gun control laws. So if, for instance, there's an assault weapons ban from the next president or the next Congress, the feds will not get any help. If we pass SEPA, the feds will not get any help from anyone in Missouri. Prosecutors won't be able to help. Your local beat cop won't be able to help, and no one in between. And so that is one of the manifestations of state sovereignty. And if we want to protect sovereignty and the principles of the 9th and 10th Amendments to the Constitution, as well as the Second Amendment to the Constitution, we try to find tools to thwart things like federal gun control laws, like the Second Amendment Preservation Act.
Let me ask you this question then real quick, based on what you just said. If, for instance, the federal government wants to ban AR-15s, and if SEPA passes, if the Second Amendment Preservation Act passes, but we decide as Missourians we want them legal. So we decide we're going to keep them legal in the state of Missouri. That creates an issue, does it not? How do we deal with that as a state if that becomes an issue?
Well, this is probably a pretty good time to talk about some resources that we have available to deal with this, because we, rather than rehash all of the mechanisms that are involved in the Second Amendment Preservation Act, it would be better to point some people to a video that does a better job explaining that than we're going to do in this conversation. And if you don't mind, let's just do that real quick.
Sure, let's do it.
Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, if you go, I'm one of the directors of Missouri First, and Missouri First is an organization that's been a nonprofit organization that's been around for about 2.5, 3 decades, and we have fought for the kind of things I just described: free market principles, state sovereignty, constitutional governance, and those sort of things. And the website for Missouri First is www.mofirst.org. And it looks something like this.
Okay, I got it.
And so if this is the launch page, so this will be the first thing you see if you go to mofirst.org. But if you're particularly interested in the Second Amendment Preservation Act, you can go to this permalink right here. I don't know if my cursor is showing. It's on the right-hand side of the screen. And it says SEPA resource page. Click on that, and it will take you to this page. And so front and center on this page is a link to a YouTube video. And this YouTube video is 8 minutes and 23 seconds long, and it explains better than we can right now how the Second Amendment Preservation Act functions. And of particular interest are some quotes from Judge Napolitano. It's someone most people are familiar with. He's the judicial analysis or analyst on Fox News, mm-hmm. and a former judge and a very, very good legal scholar. And one of the things he explains in this video is that if the federal government enacts something like, say, an assault weapons, quote unquote, I hate to even use that term, the assault weapons ban, they don't have the resources to enforce it. They will rely on states to help them enforce something like an assault weapons ban. And if the states starve them of those resources, that federal law might be on the books, but they won't be able to do anything with it. Mm-hmm. It'll just be there, because unless people voluntarily turn in their the banned firearms, the federal government doesn't get them unless the state helps them. And so the Second Amendment Preservation Act starves them of those resources. So anyway, Judge Knapp in this video, he explains that without the state's assistance, it's virtually impossible for them to enforce something like a ban. And that's the idea. Now, of course, you have some Missouri officials that would be happy to participate in a federal gun control measure, whether it's a ban or something else. And of course, we have a lot of officials that would say, no, I don't want to enforce it. So part of the idea behind the Second Amendment Preservation Act is to make it illegal for the ones that would like to participate with the federal government's bans or whatever it might be, their confiscation, and also then to give cover to the ones that don't want to participate in it. So the video is a good place to go. It'll go through some more details and explain how the Second Amendment Preservation Act actually functions. You want to cover this page a little more while we're here? Or?
Sure, absolutely. After this, let's go into your witness paperwork. But absolutely. And by the way, for those of you who are watching, I did a video explaining this video here and linked down below. And many of you have seen it. However, we're recommending those of you who have not seen this video yet that Ron is explaining, please go watch it, because it's kind of like an 8-minute version of explaining SEPA and how it works and what it would do for Missouri. That's exactly what that video does. It is worth your time. Okay, Ron, sorry, take it away, buddy.
Well, yeah, I think that we probably do want to show some of the tools that we have to get people involved, but I want them to be excited about being involved first.
Yep.
And so if you look at this page and you want to learn a little bit more about how SEPA works, up in this top corner, there's actually a link to in fact, let's just go there. There's a link to the text of the bill. And the bill's broken up into these sections. And as you click each one of these show detail buttons, it will expand and it'll show you what the text is under that section. And in fact, this is actually a fun read. The Second Amendment Preservation Act was written by one of the best constitutional attorneys that definitely in the state of Missouri, and one of the better ones in the whole country. And he gives you quite an education about history and the principles that are infused in the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the principles that the founding fathers were thinking about when the U.S. Constitution was drafted. So you can actually look at the bill in greater details there if you don't want to go to the bill page and look at the bill. That said, let's see, it doesn't like to go backwards. Then you can look at some of these other resources. Again, the Second Amendment Preservation Act uses this concept called the anti-commandeering doctrine. And this link here will take you to a great article from the 10th Amendment Center. And they explain the anti-commandeering doctrine, including a handful of U.S. Supreme Court cases that say, yes, state officials have the right to refuse to participate in federal gun control or gun control and other laws or other enforcement processes, that they are not allowed to be commandeered by the federal government. So the federal government cannot commandeer, for instance, your local sheriff or your prosecutor or anyone else in the state. And here are some great videos from the 10th Amendment Center and some other sources that are just educational. As you go down, this page will be updated and it will explain what the status of the bills is at any given time. When hearings are coming up, it will give you some action items. So it'll tell you what the best thing you can do is at any point in time. There's a hearing coming up for the Senate version of the bill. It was supposed to be on January 23rd. We had a bad ice and snowstorm, and so they canceled it. We're hoping that it'll take place this week. That is the week of the 26th. We're not sure that's going to happen yet. When they get postponed, sometimes they get postponed a week or two. So that's one of the things you can do, is you can be watching for the hearings, and you also can then participate in the hearing, the public hearing for the bill, whether or not you can actually go to Jefferson City. So you'll notice this section right here is a link for an online witness form that we provide. And I'm just going to click it and show you what shows up.
And now, by the way, for those of you watching, the text is a little fuzzy, but I will provide links in the description section. And I'm sorry about that. This is just an internet problem on my end. but we will provide links, direct links. Just in case you can't see it, you will be able to click on links to get there. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, and trust me, they look a lot better when on your own computer and not through YouTube. So this witness form, because I've filled out these witness forms before, it pre-filled my name and address in it. You won't see that when you click on it; it'll be blank, the name and address section will be blank, but the date of the hearing will be filled in for you. Then the name of the committee will be filled in, the bill number and the name of the bill will be filled in. And so it's your job then, if this is the first time you filled out a witness form, to fill out your name and address, and the phone number is optional. But if you leave a phone number and you give permission, that'll be shared with the committee so they can call you up and ask you questions if you like. And then down here, you can type your testimony. So you can explain to the committee why you think it's important to pass the Second Amendment Preservation Act, and provide them any information that you think might be valuable in them answering or making a decision about not just whether or not to support it, but how urgent it should be. It's not enough for a legislator to say, yeah, I support that bill. They need to push it through the process, because there's a lot of competition for the legislative time.
Mm-hmm.
And we want this to be elevated in importance. So even if there's 50 things they want to get done and they can only get 30 of them done, that this makes the top 30 list. When you fill it out, there's a place that you can say whether or not you want to share your email address and your phone number with the office holders, particularly the people in the committee. And if you give us that permission, then we will share it with them. I'll talk a little bit more about how we share that in a minute. And this will also add you to my database. Okay, I'm the steward of this. I am very particular about what happens to the data. I do not share anyone's data with anyone other than the legislators if you give permission for that. But the thing that does is that gives, particularly if you leave your email address, then that gives me a way to notify you of updates, particularly things that we have to move fast on. And so you'll get email updates about the status of the bill. Not too many. I'm stingy about how often I send emails out, but you will get, that'll be the best way to get notification. Once you fill this out, I have the access. I'll get to there in a minute. I'll have access to track how many people have filled out witness forms, and this isn't something that's available to anyone else. But you can see this is an example of what we've got going right now. So far, there have been 563 people that have filled out witness forms for the next hearing for the Second Amendment Preservation Act. And I can tell you that and so what I'll do is I'll actually print these witness forms out. This is what they look like, the actual printed version. That's actually the official witness form.
That's the form that you would print out and actually give to the senators
right.
in the Missouri chamber.
That's right. And so when you fill out a form, you'll get a confirmation email, and there'll be a link that you can click on, and you can download this form yourself. It'll look just like this. It's a PDF that you can print. So even if you're going to go to the hearing yourself, you fill this form out, print it yourself, and take a hard copy to turn into the committee. Anybody that actually testifies is required to fill out a witness form. This becomes part of the record. It's public information under Chapter 610 Revised Statutes of Missouri, and it gets archived in the Secretary of State's archives, and so you end up being part of the official process. So if you're going to go to the hearing, print it yourself and turn it in yourself. If you're not going to go to the hearing, then I print these forms out, hundreds and hundreds of them. One time we turned in 1,600 witness forms, and I can tell you that it makes quite an impression on the committee when, even if there's only a handful of citizens that actually show up for a hearing, to know that there's hundreds and hundreds of them at home that would be there if they could, if they didn't have to work, if it wasn't support of travel, whatever. And so the witness forms makes it very clear that there's broad consensus about passing this bill.
Okay, so let me actually kind of encapsulate this just a little bit for those who are watching our YouTube channel. Ron has here a tool for all Missourians everyone who lives in Missouri to actually fill out a witness form in support of a bill, or even saying they don't want the bill. This is another tool, just like Aaron Dorr has, through the Missouri Firearms Coalition. Ron's Missouri First, or mofirst.org website, has another tool that is also very direct in getting information directly to senators and representatives for a specific bill. And what we're stumping for, of course, is SB588, the Second Amendment Preservation Act, or SAPA. And that's what this witness forum is for. So basically, what I will do, Ron, since it's the internet connection's not so good, it was a little fuzzy, I will provide links to everyone for Truth, Money, and Freedom to actually have direct access to that. So again, explain. Someone from Missouri goes onto your website and fills out this information for the first time. You are the steward of the database. You do not share your information with anybody, except for if they allow for their information to be passed to the senators. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, understand that the whole idea behind the witness forms is to give them to the committee.
Mm-hmm.
So that stands with that, goes without reason. But but sharing their personal data,
like
their
email
phone number and email address, right? That is something they've got to give permission for.
Okay.
So when we will take the printed out witness forms to the hearing, and then after the hearing, we'll send them a link so they can go to something that we call Constituents Voice, and so that link takes them to something like this. And so now this is a generic rendition of this page, and so you can see that there's only first name and first initial listed here. The legislators will get the full name. They will get everybody's full name listed there. And if you've given permission listed here too, their phone number and email address will show. And so they can go, because not every one of those, for instance, this next week, senators will get that whole stack. We don't make a stack of those witness forms for every senator. We let them go to this website and read the comments that people left on their witness forms online. Mm-hmm. And then what's more, they can also click this button right here. And by the way, when you fill out a witness form, you'll get a link to Constituents Voice. So you'll be able to see what you wrote, and you'll also be able to see what other Missourians wrote. And yes, this is just for Missourians. The witness forms are just for Missourians, not from people from other states. So you'll see a window just like this. You'll see.
We're seeing you right now, Ron. We're not seeing the window.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, thanks for reminding me of that.
No problem, buddy.
Change. I'll fix that. Okay, so this is the Constituents Voice page. So the legislators get emailed a link that takes them to this page, and they will see your whole name listed here, and then right here they'll see your email address and your phone number only if you give us permission to show them that email address and phone number. Mm-hmm. But what I started saying a moment ago is that when you fill out a witness form, you also get a link to this page. Mm-hmm. The link that you see will have your full name and email address and phone number on it, but no one else's. It'll look just like this. You'll see yours on there, so don't let that upset you, but no one else will see your personal information. They only see their personal information. Mm-hmm. And then you or the legislators can click on this button right here, and it brings up a cool Google map. And it shows them where the witnesses that we turned in witness forms from to. Let me start over. It'll show them where the witnesses we turned in witnesses for live.
Understood.
Approximately. And so if you're a senator from this district here, you might want to hover over this bubble, and you'll see that this person, they'll see the full name, not just first name and first initial, and they'll find out who from their district is interested in this bill. And so you want your senator to know that you're on this map.
Yep, that's a wonderful tool, by the way, Ron. Before you told me about this, I didn't even know this existed. For those of you who are listening today or watching, This is just as good as actually showing up at the Senate floor the day of a hearing. I mean, if you can't make it, Jefferson City is about 140 miles from me, roughly. And if I can't make it to the floor of the Senate when they're doing a hearing on SBS 588, I've already filled out the form. And Ron's already got it. And by the way, it's easy peasy to do this. And it's just
And it's easier.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, it's even easier the second time, because the second time you get notification of a hearing and a witness form. I will generate a special link for you that'll get emailed to you. When you click on it, it'll actually fill in your name and your address automatically for you. And so the second one's even easier. And so when there's a hearing, and well, what's more, when there's a hearing in the House for the same bill, even your testimony will fill in for you if you want it to. So if you wrote out some long explanation for why you think it should pass, you don't have to do it a second time. It'll plug it right in there for you. This makes it very, very easy to participate.
Yeah, that's a wonderful tool, and thank you for helping Missourians with this. I think, first off, it's very important for those of you who are watching us today that live in Missouri to strongly consider getting on mofirst.org and going to the SEPA page and then doing the witness. The witness form is extremely important if you do not intend to go to the hearing for 588. Now, since we have Ron with us, and in fact, we're hoping that we can do this maybe even once a week. Ron, what's the latest on the Second Amendment Preservation Act, SB588? What's the status of that in the Senate right now?
Well, the Senate Bill 588 is waiting for a hearing. It was supposed to have a hearing Thursday morning. And of course, you know what happened in Missouri Thursday morning. We had, well, actually Wednesday night, and then into Thursday morning, we had an ice storm and then snow on top of that. And they kind of chickened out. I don't blame them. I slid home from the Capitol Wednesday night. It was, I was worried about the last 10 or 12 miles. And so it was probably wise for them to call it off. But it actually got postponed, or no, I'm sorry, it got rescheduled to this coming Thursday morning, so the week that we're in right now. So what would that be? The 30th. So
Okay,
so
the
it was rescheduled to the 30th, and then for some reason it got bumped from that schedule, and we're not sure if it's going to actually be this week or next week now. But the cool thing is that just the fact that it had a hearing scheduled last week, that's fast tracking. That's actually a very fast track. If you get a bill heard anytime during the first couple months of session, you should be pretty happy. And to have it actually scheduled for a hearing the first couple of weeks is big.
Yeah.
So, we think that we have some great opportunities this year with this bill. But at the same time, so all you can do really is watch mofirst.org and that resource page. Or if you're on my email list, if you fill out the witness form, you'll get on my email list, and watch for email notifications. We'll keep you appraised of how that hearing is coming along. But in the meantime, besides filling out the witness form, there are other things that you can do. So for instance, let me get back to it. If you go back to that resource page, remember there's a House version of the same bill. So typically in a organized effort to get some legislation passed, you'll find a Senate bill sponsor and a House bill sponsor, and they'll both file the identical bill on different sides of the building, one in the House and one in the Senate. And so we've got Senator Eric Burleson in the Senate, and we've got Representative Jared Taylor in the House that filed the same bill. Now, there's a different dynamic in the House, and in the House, what we care about more than anything are at this point in time, at least, are getting co-sponsors for the bill.
Right.
The more co-sponsors a bill has in the House, the more attention it will get from leadership, and the faster it will move through the process. So if you're a Missouri resident, what you can do right now is determine whether or not your representative, now I'm not talking about your representative to the U.S. Congress, your representative to the Missouri General Assembly, find out whether or not they are a co-sponsor of the Second Amendment Preservation Act.
HB 1637.
Right. That's right. So if you go to that resource page and scroll down past this hearing notice, here's Jared Taylor's name and a link to his bill. And right below that, in fact, I'm going to make this bigger after we get off. But right below that, there's a link that shows you who has co-sponsored the bill. And this will take you to an official page from the General Assembly. And actually, you're not seeing that. Let me back up. I forgot I was not sharing my screen. Give me just a moment. Okay, so we're back at the Missouri First Second Amendment Preservation Act resource page.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to scroll down past the hearing notice for the Senate version of the bill. And down here, we see Representative Taylor and the bill number with the bill link.
Mm-hmm.
And then right below that, we see a link that you can go to see an official list of the co-sponsors. So this is actually a page for the Missouri House of Representatives. And all of these representatives, I believe there's about 41 of them now, have co-sponsored the bill.
Mm-hmm.
And if one of them co-sponsored that bill 5 minutes from now, almost immediately their name would show up there. And they can do it from home, by the way. They can co-sponsor a bill over the internet through a secure website. So if you meet them at the coffee shop or wherever you might happen to run into your representative, know that they can go right back home on their home computer or their district office, and they can co-sponsor. They don't have to wait till they get back to the Capitol. No excuses. One of the reasons this is important is it takes 82 yes votes to pass a bill.
Mm-hmm.
82 yes votes to pass a bill in the House of Representatives. Guess what? We have half that many that are actually co-sponsors of the bill already.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big leg up. And the more we get on here, just think about it. So if we get 82 or 83 or 85 co-sponsors, they've got to advance the bill quickly because they know that as soon as they put it on the floor, it's going to pass. It's going to be a yes vote. So getting these co-sponsors right now is the most important thing that we can do for the House bill. The most important thing we can do for the Senate bill right now is to fill out a witness form.
Right. So basically a witness form for the Senate and calling of representatives in the General Assembly right now to co-sponsor HB 1637. And then that's pretty much what you would say needs to be done at this point to help further this?
That's right. Those are the most important things you can do. And then again, I can't say this too many times, when you fill out a witness form, that's also how you automatically get added to the email list for notifications.
Right.
If you don't feel comfortable doing that, that's fine. Then just keep an eye on this page. Go to this page occasionally.
Gotcha. I want to let all the listeners know that may be in Missouri. I have filled out the co-witness form, and I'm very comfortable with exactly what happens with that page and the information that's shared with the Senate in Missouri. And frankly, I'm never quite sure if I can make a hearing, so I prefer just to fill that out in advance at Ron's site. For those of you who have never been to a Senate hearing on a bill, sometimes it can be just parking can be a real challenge sometimes. Ask Ron or ask me, because we've had that challenge before. However,
I can give you some tips along those lines.
I'm sure you could. You've been there one or two times more than I have.
Well, if you don't mind walking just a little bit, the parking's not that difficult. So there's a parking garage to the east of the Capitol, and it's going to cost you $6 or so to park all day long. Mm-hmm. Or if you want to, this is what I typically do. I park down the hill below the Supreme Court building. So that's
what I did last time too.
Yeah, and there's parking meters there. It's a quarter per hour, mm-hmm. and you can get 10 or 12 hours worth of parking in one meter there. Some of the meters don't let you park that long, but the ones that are below the Supreme Court building, down that steep hill, so you've got a pretty good hill to climb to get up to the Capitol. There's almost always meters that are available down there. So that's where I almost always go. Now they've got all this construction going around the Capitol, so there's even fewer parking places close to the Capitol.
Yep.
But
So,
having said that, I do want to make one other point before I forget.
sure.
The witness forms are a great tool. We've been doing it for several years. We've actually turned in somewhere around 30,000 witness forms over the years. It's a lot of witness forms. Um, but there's no substitute for actually going to the Capitol.
I agree.
There's no substitute for going to the Capitol, and that is something that can be done in the meantime. You can just go to the Capitol if you can get loose and just visit legislators, go to their offices. If they're in session, you can ask to call them off the floor. So you can go to the doorman and you can say, I'm a constituent of Representative X or Senator Y. Would you ask him if he has a few minutes to visit with me? And unless they're involved in something on the floor, they'll typically come out and they'll visit with you if you can't catch them in their office.
Right. And I've had a pleasant experience. I've been reporting on the YouTube page every time I go to the Capitol. It's been a pretty good experience. Eric has been more than gracious. It's been a pleasure going up there. It really has. So I agree with Ron 100%. For all of our Missouri subs or anyone who's watching this YouTube video, the Second Amendment Preservation Act is what we're talking about. It's bill number SB588 in the Missouri legislature right now. This is in the Senate side. The House has the same exact bill, same wording. The only thing that's different is a designation. That one's called HB1637, and that one, of course, is Jared Taylor's bill. He's sponsoring it. We're looking for more co-sponsors on the House side. This is very important. I can't stress this enough. Those of you in Missouri who want the Second Amendment Preservation Act, please call your representatives. Make sure. In fact, Ron has just shown you. And we'll have links down below too. You can find out where your representative is at, whether or not they're a co-sponsor. And you might want to call the neighboring district if you see a representative there you think should be co-sponsoring the bill. Feel free to give them a call too and voice your opinion with them. This is where the rubber hits.
Call your buddies that are in other districts and tell them to call their representative.
Absolutely. You could do it that way too. And I've said it before, Ron, and I don't feel guilty doing it. If you're not in Missouri, and if you're strongly thinking about moving to this state, of course call. Say, hey, listen, I'm strongly considering moving to the state of Missouri, but I'd sure like the Second Amendment Preservation Act bill to pass. And in fact, if you got a business, say, hey, listen, I'd be moving my whole business over there, but I want my business in a Second Amendment friendly state. So, be sure to pass that bill for us. That matters. That matters. And I'm not trying to get people to do anything nefarious or anything that would be inconsistent with being honest. I'm not trying to get people to do that, but I am trying to get Missourians activated on this and those who are thinking. And by the way, the only reason I say this, Ron, if you look at the comment section of the videos I put out, there's an awful lot of folks saying, boy, I'd move to Missouri if they pass this bill. Well, that's great. Make a phone call, please. Call a senator, call a rep. So that's kind of why I started saying that.
If you understand what the Second Amendment was designed for, to protect you from criminals and also from the government, if it comes to that, it's important for you to have the tools it takes to protect yourself and your family and your neighbors. And let's just say, in the event that it could be the next election. Look how quickly Virginia flipped.
Mm-hmm.
So Virginia was a relatively gun-friendly state for a long time,
right.
and the whole legislature and the governor's office flipped, and all those people ran on strong gun control policies, and so they hit the ground running. They're going to try to really curtail people's right to bear arms,
mm-hmm.
and that can happen on a federal level.
And
if that happens, we want Missouri to be a sanctuary, so that people can know that if they move to Missouri, their right to bear arms and protect themselves and their families, their right to self-protection, really is what it's all about, is going to be protected by state officials from the top to the bottom.
Yeah.
They will be obligated to legally. It will be against the law for them to infringe on your right to bear arms from enforcing federal gun laws. So it will be. So we're trying to make Missouri a sanctuary,
You
and I
bet.
think people like to move to sanctuaries, don't they?
Yes, they do. And shall not be infringed is not lost on me, Ron. We shouldn't even have to do stuff like this, but unfortunately we do. And this is the legal construct and framework that we have to work with. Missouri is trying to help its citizens here. There's very powerful people, basically in the Senate and in the House of Representatives that are trying to get this done. They need a little bit of help from the grassroots folks. That's you and me. They need our help. They need to hear our voices. They need the witness forms in the Senate. So consider the witness forms. And by the way, gang, once again, at the bottom, right down below in the description section, I'll have all the links for you because I know the text has been somewhat fuzzy. I apologize about that. Once again, it's an internet connection issue that we simply can't get around right now. So that's why the text is a little fuzzy. But, Ron, I'll tell you what, though. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
As I say, at the bottom of the main landing page for mofirst.org is one of my favorite quotes from Thomas Jefferson. He said, this was in 1801, he said, "Our citizens have wisely formed themselves into one nation as to others, and several states as among themselves. To the United Nation belongs our external and mutual relations, to each state severally the care of our persons, our property, our reputation, and religious freedom."
Mm-hmm.
So Thomas Jefferson recognized that our system of federalism was designed such that the state's primary responsibility would be to protect your personal individual liberty. And that's what the Second Amendment Preservation Act obligates state officials to do in Missouri. It obligates them legally, statutorily, to protect, at least not infringe on your right to bear arms and protect yourself and your family.
Yeah. And thank you very much for being with us, Ron. And I'll tell you what, if you don't mind, let's try and do these about once a week so we can get straight updated information. No fake news here. We're going to give everyone all the information they need, what needs to be done on a timely basis to help pass this along, push it along. And if that's all right with you, I mean, I know the Truth, Money, and Freedom folks would love to hear from us, about once a week if it is possible.
I think that'd be great. Perhaps at least at the end of the week, so we can keep people appraised of what happened in the legislature that week, and then maybe we'll know what call to action is appropriate at that time.
You bet. You bet. Okay, well, Ron, thank you so much for being with me this evening. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you giving us your time today, and of course, saying forward into let's see, about the middle of May is about our time frame there. Then hopefully we'll have this passed before then, and we need the help in the House, and that's with co-sponsorship, gang. So the co-sponsorship and of course the witness forms, please. Links will be down below. Ron has been instrumental in helping all of this. I think he's been very humble on a lot of this, and I'm thanking you for that, Ron. I know that you have a lot more history you could discuss with us on how you helped with the etymology of this whole thing. And just from one Missourian to another, I thank you for everything you've done.
Well, this is a team effort, and boy, it's sure nice to have you on the team.
Yeah, no problem. You take care, buddy. We're going to go for now, but we'll do this again hopefully next Sunday night and give everyone an update. And thanks again for being with us. And for all of you who are watching this on YouTube, thank you very much for joining us. We know that your time is precious. We're trying not to waste it. We're trying to cram as much information into a short period of time as possible. Please bear with us. And once again, thank you for joining us. May God bless each and every one of you.